Hello, guys, and welcome to another video with Moving Home with Charlie. I am Charlie Lambden, and this is such a short video. We had such an amazing reaction to the Death in Poverty video, which is a conversation between me and my old school friend Alex, that this is a quick follow-up to the reaction. So I've got Alex waiting here in the wings on audio. So Alex,
Good evening.
Good evening. Cool. Well, it was fun, wasn't it? I mean, do you know what I really loved about that was that we didn't have any idea what the reaction was going to be. We had a really enjoyable conversation and a bit of a laugh, actually. If you watch it back, we did have a laugh.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you were very wise to then suggest that we fact checked our own facts in that conversation. And I thought we were bang on 60% of GDP being from rent. We were absolutely smack on with that.
That was luck and a little bit of judgment, because we were wrong on both of our figures going in, but as a percentage we were, as you say, I think I said something above 16 and it's 16.4. So happy with that one.
We'll call that close enough. So just in this video, what I thought we'd do is you got a lot of fans, Alex, a lot of fans, a lot of people.
It's frankly amazing, but there we go.
It's not amazing at all. This is why I've enjoyed your company so much for all these years. You're a highly entertaining person.
That normally involves alcohol, though.
Yes, well, it didn't this time. No. But maybe we should do that on the next one, just for fun. Right. So let's go through a couple of comments that you've picked out that you wanted to talk about. We'll start with this one from Simon Clark.
Yeah,
Empire's decline assuredly is like follows day, and he talks about. Yeah, we'll leave that on screen and just let you respond to it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Roman Empire, at its collapse, it had been so dependent on the productivity of its slaves, while the ruling class just declined into depravity and was in huge debt. I mean, vast debt. And there are some serious parallels between what's going on at the moment and how the Roman Empire collapsed. Great comment.
Yeah, but his point about it did play out over centuries, so it wasn't an overnight thing, was it? It was a slow crumble and decay, wasn't it?
It was, but you could argue that we've been going that way for quite a few decades now. Yeah, and when we talked, it was about the turn of the century, depending on how fast technology can actually enable things like AI and robotics. So, we're not looking at this short term. This is a change which is going to continue and will have then been running for about 120 years. What I liked in particular was, his reference to energy. And I think the next comment that's coming up is about energy. That is an absolute key. People equate high worth economies with having plenty of available energy. And without energy, you can't produce. But actually, there's an argument that says high energy economies create wealth. So if you can have the nuclear power stations, if you can have whether it's geothermal energy, whatever it may be, by having that plentiful energy, you can raise living standards, and also in manufacture and production across your economy, you end up creating money. And that's why economies where they can't produce cheap energy lag behind. So it sort of turns it on its head, that it's the cheap energy which allows you to produce, not having the money allows you to build things so that you can have cheap energy.
Okay, let's go on to the next one, shall we? And I'm going to read the whole thing out, actually, because I forgot that we do an audio podcast of this, so people listening won't be able to read it on the screen. So Jonah826 on YouTube says, read the culture novels by Ian M. Banks. They had unlimited energy. It's no good having AIs and robots if you have no energy to run them. And what are we as a society doing right now? Making energy more expensive. The culture would not be able to function on wind power.
Yeah, well, just reinforces what we we're just saying. Yeah, it absolutely 100% correct. The climate change, the net zero arguments can get very detailed and divisive, but there is no doubt that however we produce it, and my view has been that nuclear is the only way currently that we can provide globally for the energy needs. But that may change as technology changes. We cannot get out of the situation that we're going to find ourselves in over the next 70 odd years.
Well, so hang on, that's not true. We don't know how, if it's possible, right? With energy, like, don't we keep on? I mean, one of the things, this actually, let me just qualify this comment. I've been thinking to myself about how our death in poverty discussion was basically, you got to the end of it and it's like, well, we're fucked. Nothing we can do about it. There's really no way out of this. Let's just enjoy it all the way down. And then I thought to myself, and this is why I think we should have we should have a separate, a much longer conversation to discuss this about, well, what are the things that have happened in the last 40 years that nobody predicted would happen? Good things with bits of technology that no one saw coming that made a massive difference. And what might those be in the future that might actually solve some of these problems? Like fusion, for example.
Yeah, but we've been talking about that since we were kids.
It doesn't mean it's not happening.
No, well, and it is. There was a test recently, but I think they produced enough energy to boil a kettle.
Listen, small steps. I reckon they'll ramp it up pretty quick if they can. You're right. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying I want to have that hypothetical conversation with you about what would happen to the world if, for example, suddenly unlimited free energy was available. You can imagine. I mean, that would be astonishing, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, right. That is the game changer.
Yeah, it is. Okay, and on to the third one. Yes. Here we go. Right. VC Jones on YouTube says, CBDCs? Oh, man. If you think that is the answer, we're doomed. Do you realize that most CBDCs are built on Ethereum, which has a fragile and centralized infrastructure? The core group of developers have routinely changed the underlying code against the wishes of the community who have a deeper understanding of what's going on. Yes, we need a new financial system, but be careful of the solution that you are advocating, because with CBDCs, you have programmable money that can be switched on or switched off. Okay, and she goes on to talk about basically government control of our money. What was interesting from that comment is I didn't know that CBDCs were built on Ethereum.
Well, and that is still up for grabs. I don't think blockchain will be used for central bank digital currencies if they are implemented, which I think is likely. Although you had another commenter who suggested that actually banks would retain offshore non-government interferable with money, and that would be used transactionally. I don't think governments will allow it in the same way that CBDCs are their answer to cutting back on the prevalence of crypto and taking money back to being controlled by governments, really.
And there was news last week that the government is planning to try and regulate cryptocurrencies, which
absolutely. And as the exchanges collapse, people defraud them, then obviously it gives them a good excuse to do so. CBDCs are very frightening in many ways. Absolutely, they will be programmable. The reason blockchain doesn't make sense is because it's inherently slow and also has some structural issues when you're dealing with vast transaction volumes.
Right.
So there's just no need for it, especially if they're going to be managed by central banks.
Okay. And I just wanted to spend the last few minutes of this talking about the concept again of that video. So the death in poverty video. I was the surprise for me in the hundreds and hundreds of comments on that video. So at the time of recording this, we've had, well, actually, I'll just quickly show you the comments on there. It's crazy. Look at this. This is just the comments on this one video. It's just loads and loads and loads and loads. And what's amazing is that almost all of them are supportive, encouraging, and saying that was a great conversation. And like everyone took it positively.
That's excellent. I mean, I'm very happy.
I mean, I was absolutely gobsmacked that almost everybody took it positively. And the sort of underlying message from all of it was, if only there was more conversation like this in the mainstream, it might actually be constructive and positive and help people feel better about the future if you know what you're dealing with, rather than constantly feeling like you're being bullshitted to by the government and the media.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sad. As you know, not that long ago, I was working for a mainstream media organization, not in their journalist and editorial side, but you know, the people who work there are decent humans, and they're bright. But newspapers as a media format are dying, if not dead, and advertising is a very large proportion of revenue. And they just need to rush stories out there. They've got to be first, and they've got to make the headline interesting. And by interesting, I mean clickbait, so that quite often the headline contradicts the story.
But like my Times article, it's exactly what happened. When they said, they made the headline was "Don't buy in 2023, wait till 2024,"
which you've never said. No, you've never said that. You always say if you need to buy, if you can afford to buy, just don't overpay. I've heard you. But you know, it's not that these companies, or certainly the company I was working for, it's not that they're evil or that they're inherently bad people. They just don't have the time to fact check, and then their audience doesn't bother to read further than the headline, or doesn't have the ability to look behind the paywall, and so suddenly they're reading that headline and taking that as fact. And sometimes it's unforgivable. I mean, there was a big over the COVID piece, I managed to get 3 newspapers to change their stories. It took me an awful
amazing.
Well, yes, I got Sky News to change its story. They didn't retract, but they did change the story. But of course, what they do is after it's published and it's been in everyone's news feed, they change it, but that doesn't put it back in the news feed.
No, it doesn't. Exactly.
So they can legitimately say, "Oh well, you know, we've changed the story. It is now accurate." No one's going to look at it 4 days later. They've already looked at it.
Yeah, exactly. So just to wrap this up, my idea is that on one of our next longer conversations, and by the way, it's infinitely better to do them in person if we can. I think
100%.
I'm probably coming to London actually this week again, so much better, much more fun to do it in person if we can. I think you will back me up on this. You've known me a very long time, right? Am I not one of the most optimistic, happy, like positive people that you know?
I agreed that in our last conversation.
Which is cool. So, but having said that, it's a fair observation that I have not put out much positive content on this channel so far.
That depends on how you define positive, Charlie.
Hopeful.
Yeah.
And so I actually do think it's worth having a similar conversation where we explore or just, cogitate and maybe do a Derek and Clive as someone in the car. That was my favorite comment. Someone said we reminded them of Derek and Clive, which I absolutely love. And if you're watching this, you don't know who Derek and Clive are, go to YouTube, look up Derek and Clive, and don't watch it if you're easily offended, is all I will say.
If you don't like profanity, do not watch Derek and Clive.
Comedy we were raised on, guys, but it is outrageous stuff. And I would love to have a conversation on ignoring technological limitations. What would need to happen to solve all of the biggest problems we're facing? And there are many, aren't there? To actually go, hang on, do you know what? There is a hope of a better future. And just have just like a spitballing, brainstorming, more business bollocks words. Like, what would it look like?
Well,
to actually solve the problem.
In that respect, I believe there will be a better future. That was part of our discussion last time. The problem is that better future is quite a lot of turbulence away.
Oh, yes.
And it's minimizing that time period from where we are now to the new world order. God, I didn't say that. That's not what I said.
You mean rip the plaster off? We need to find a way to rip the plaster off.
The new social construct. I don't know what you want to call it. Certainly not what the WEF call it, but to the way that we will function in the future, which I think will be better. As we used to live in caves, we were out hunting and gathering. We lived a tiny proportion of time, 30 odd years, then you were dead. It was pretty bloody horrible. You couldn't heat your plate. You were freezing all the time. One cut and you died of sepsis. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible fucking existence. And we look at where we are now, you know, much better. And the
on that happy note, I'm going to wrap this up because we've reached 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I've got one to go to. But I'm also just doing a shameless plug for anyone watching this that is needing to buy a house and hasn't got the mortgage lined up. Bottom of the screen, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage to talk to my hand-picked independent whole of market mortgage brokers. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll be back soon for Charlie Chats with Alex. We're gonna have a series. There's gonna be a playlist of all the Charlie Chats with Alex videos in one playlist on the YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, Alex. Thanks for coming, and look forward to talking to you on the next one.
No problems, Charlie. Have fun.
Yeah.